Hello friends. Today we have a very interesting lecture. But before we go ahead, I wanted to make sure and have a review of the previous exercise. Who had fun practicing on this first exercise? Did you receive and get good results? Don't be shy to share your experiences. And if you have any difficulties, don't worry. You'll eventually get there. Keep practicing. Friends, there are people, to them it's easy to visualize. It is given by nature, and there are people who have difficulties with it. Therefore, getting into discussions and advice from one another is very helpful, and you gain lots of energy. There is no judgment on whom is ahead or behind. It is important for me that everyone in our group succeed these exercises well. Today we will be giving a little more specific features of these exercises. We will analyze how can we make it easier so you can be able to do it after all. The thing is, at first I wanted to just show you what is the idea and what visualization is. I mean, you have to know that it is not that simple. Why telekinesis can be complicated? Because telekinesis and all other super extrasensory connection and abilities is the ability to visualize a certain events. Once managed to visualize, then you will succeed. But in order for you to be able to visualize, you need to start going from simple to complex. In the previous exercise, that's what I made you imagine, visualize. It was one of the simplest techniques. Believe me, friends, that wasn't any serious or complex tasks. You only had to see if you could do it the first time or not. But even if you haven't succeeded, it's okay. By the end of the lecture, we will touch on certain techniques that will help you make it more easier. Friends, in the next 3 to 4 months, you will learn to visualize any event and it will happen. You will not be able to just create a cube and somehow feel its sides or feel its cold or heat sensation, but you will also create events. And when you get to this level, it will be easy for you to go to the level of telekinesis. Someone asked me once, for starters, what is the normal criterion? In fact, there is no such criterion for normality. It's normal for everyone in their own way. For example, when I was asked for the first time to visualize something, I couldn't do nothing. I didn't know what was visualize is. And today we will go a little deeper. What are we going to talk today? Well, leave the exercises for later. The main topic of our lesson is generation and accumulation of internal energy. This is very, very important thing. And today we will talk only about this. Today we will not run anywhere further. Today we will talk only about it, and at the end I will give you a couple of very important exercises. Friends, it so happened to be in my previous courses that I start to give telekinesis exercise by the second or third lesson. But for many, it did not work, and people just drop out of the course. And when the course falls apart, the teacher becomes just a little boring to teach, and then the whole course eventually collapses. Therefore, in order to prevent this from happening, I specifically decided to give you only basics within the 4 months. It's the foundation of everything. It's like the foundation of running, foundation of boxing, karate, swimming. If you understand the basis well, you can build anything on it. And if you don't understand the basis, you will constantly stumble on every easy task as well. Therefore, today we will consider such a concept as generation and accumulation of energy. In my opinion, superpowers are based on 3 pillars. The first is, of course, the power of thought, which is the first elephant on which all it stands. What do I mean by that? If you imagine as if the earth was flat and it was supported by 3 elephants, according to our ancestors, for superhuman powers, the 3 pillars that holds them is our proper nutrition, the correct mode of the day, and the power of thought. In my opinion, the power of thought is the strongest elephant here, and withstands the disc of superpowers at 60%. It seems to be quite a lot, but in order to do everything to work, we need everything as a complete puzzle. Because thoughts are trained like a muscle. So here you train the cube exercise for a whole week. This was the power of thought. Friends, I will make a small indent. I guess all of you have seen the movie The Secret. It's such an interesting documentary about how a person can do everything with the power of thought. And those who haven't seen it, this is a documentary about people wanting something and everything came true. But friends, this wasn't completely true. I could say there was lots of lies in it. Because it comes true when we charge our thought. But for that, thought should be as good as pumped muscle. The power of thought is like a boxing punch. If you train it, it hits hard and your target is connected perfectly. But if you don't practice, it will be just a flicker, but in reality, is absolutely nothing. Here, this analogy works the same for superpowers connections and energy of the power of thought. Therefore, superpowers, as I said, are based on 3 certain paradigms. The first, which is correct mode of the day. The second is nutrition. And today we're going to talk about this. Then we will discuss on the development of the power of thought in the next lesson. That topic will also be very interesting, but I have a small request. I would like you to take this seriously because this is very important. Despite the power of thoughts accounts for 60% and the food nutrition and daily routine is 40%, at the same time, in my opinion, it's about 20 to 25%. But it is all the components of the whole, and without them, it will be hard to move forward or do anything. Imagine that your child made a puzzle and it lacks a couple of details. Well, it will not look nice enough. Or better, imagine if a car goes without certain screws, by the end, sooner or later, there will be an accident and people will break. Exactly the same in superpower and abilities learning. Sooner or later, it will come out that you just can't do nothing. So today, we will look in how this works. Well, the mode of the day. I think everything is clear here. The day mode tells us that we should try to go to bed at the same time regularly and have about 7 to 8 hours sleep a day. This might sound silly to some, but in reality, we should sleep for 7 hours a day. And here we have a certain trick. Scientists, and probably not only scientists, but it was invented by the universe, and then it threw it into our heads. Discover opportunities to sleep not only 7 to 8 hours in a row, but at certain hours. There were geniuses who slept for 2 hours every 3 to 4 hours. If people are not tied to a particular place at work and manage their time, for them it works fine. But for the meantime, you should make a rule that we sleep 7 hours at least. And it is desirable that the dream begins before midnight. While we are working for a couple of months on strengthening our connection and superpowers and developing our basic skills, I'm going to ask you to take this very seriously. The fact that the quality of our sleep can be checked. You could do that with a test of a muscle tonic activity. Tonic activity is a performance of our muscle to a certain efficiency. You may remember this funny incident when a Russian player last year stayed up all night drinking at the bars and then played poorly the next day, and they all blamed him. This is what is called tonic activity. A person cannot be all night in bar drinking, even though he has a huge professionalism behind his back, cannot expect to go out in the field and play as he play in his own good conditions. The tone of your muscles should always be in good condition. A good state is when we give them a rest, and we can verify that. And the increase in tone greatly increases the level of your abilities and superpowers. That is, if you could barely stand on your feet, you don't have time to sleep, You sleep in places and odd times, in traffic jams, in trains for 10 minutes here and there. You will never get enough sleep. It is a direct road to going nowhere, at least in the development of abilities and superhuman powers. But in life, I will not tell you whether it is good or bad. Here I am not to judge. But for the development of superpowers, it is extremely unproductive. That is, our task is to take another rule, to go to bed by 11 p.m. No matter how good the movies are, in the age of YouTube and downloading, you can watch these movies in the morning. And if you're going to meet your friends, everything can always be rescheduled in this process of development. Sleep is the most important thing. If you put your sleep first, it will change your life. There's a saying, an hour in the morning is worth 2 in the evening. So the mode of the day is lights out at 11, sleep for 7 to 8 hours. Or for example, if you went to bed at 10 p.m., you got up at 3 a.m., you could go to sleep 2 to 3 hours during your day, and it will compensate for the daily needs of your sleep. Friends, Nikola Tesla slept for 2-3 hours a day, but he could also even go to parallel dimensions. Let's start with the fact that Nikola Tesla drew his knowledge in a certain way that we are not accustomed to. That is, he moved into parallel dimension, and of course it is not a secret. He told about this in his autobiographies. When a person is able to move into parallel universes, there is a completely different energy, and it gets complicated. Tesla had a very strong intuition and a power of thought. We still have to crawl and crawl to these heights, so don't compare yourself to Nikola Tesla. Those who read his diaries know that he drew his knowledge from the ideas about parallel worlds, but we won't talk about it now. Second, the very important point, the second paradigm that has a great impact on the development of superpowers is nutrition. Nutrition is such a thing that helps our body only when we eat right. And it makes our body spend lots of energy if we don't eat properly. Think about it. Surely many of you drive cars and know that how the car will drive depends on the quality of gasoline. The same goes with abilities and superpowers. Food has an incredibly strong influence on our body. It either gives us the energy that the body and our brain generates, or we lose energy to digestion. That is, when our body is struggling with inner conflicts. By the way, this applies not to the nutrition and sleep, but is also concerned to the development of power of thought. But there it is called in a different way. Now let's think about it. Here you are. You want to bring some interesting visualization to life, but your body is struggling with the consequence of your feast. Naturally, it is more important for the body to feel good. It is more important for your stomach to digest food properly. And if it doesn't, it does not have energy to trigger your thought. It's simple as that. There are lots of different types of food, a variety of diets, but I will tell you the minimum that must be observed, without which the system will not work. If you are a couple levels higher than what I am telling you, even it's better. This does not mean that you now need to throw what you do and go down to my level. Not at all. All you need to do is just define a separate meal plan for yourself. A separate diet means that you eat protein and carbohydrates separately from each other. There is also a division of complex proteins, more precisely heavy proteins and light proteins. But this is a line that we can cross. If you do not eat carbohydrates and proteins together, it is already a very good thing. This will give your body a lot more energy. What are carbohydrates? This is all flour. It is our porridge, our bread. This is, in principle, almost everything that grows from the ground, except for legumes, mushrooms, and nuts. Remember, legumes, mushrooms, and nuts are proteins. Everything else is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates gives us energy, but you need to be very careful with carbohydrates too. If you eat right, it will help you to give up your gym membership. You will walk not to pump your muscles, but to keep yourself in good condition. I recommended eating carbs in the morning. That is, when I get up, I make myself an oatmeal, porridge. You can make yourself a whole pot of oatmeal and eat it. But eat it separately from proteins. You can use fats, you can use some vegetable fats. Naturally, you can fill it with olive oil and use some vegetable, cucumbers, tomatoes, etc. And you can eat it in unlimited quantities. Salads are different, but we do not mix carbohydrate porridge with meat and dairy products. You eat and give 1 to 1.5 hours for the body to digest these carbohydrates. And after taking carbohydrates, after 2 hours, you can eat protein meal. Carbohydrates are digested up to an hour, but we can always give ourselves a little more time. And proteins digest from 1 to 1.5 to 2 hours. And one more advice. It's from sugars. It is desirable to refuse and cut off sugar from your system. And I'm not talking about usual refined sugar. The sugars in fruits are harmless, so better eat them for desserts. Milk porridge is also a protein. Porridge already has a carbohydrate food. If you eat porridge, it is best on water. In my opinion, there is nothing more delicious than oatmeal that is cooked with water. If you get used to the oatmeal in the morning, your body will only say thank you to you. It looks childish and funny, but when we start to look more into details, we start to see how the body works. Our body is like a periodic table. The body itself allocates certain substances for the digestion of a particular food. It secretes some kind of acidic or alkaline juice. As you know, acid and alkali neutralize each other. And that's what happens in the body if we put a piece of sausage and bread on it, such as a hot dog. Our body has been developing for many years and knows perfectly well how to split food. When the body eats the sausage and the bread together, the body feels in its presence of the protein and secretes acid. But then at the same time, it feels the presence of carbohydrate compounds, and then it releases alkali. And here we get a chemical process where one neutralizes each other, and the food remains almost completely undigested. And in this form, as it goes further to a duodenum and then to the small intestines, to where if we are in good eating practice, the product is already broken down, from which nutrients will be absorbed. But instead, there's a process of rotting due to the eating the hot dog. And instead of gaining energy, the body spends on its fight against some internal conflicts. Well, practitioners who knows medicine will understand it better. I'm just telling you the highlights. There was a question that almost every product has proteins and carbohydrates at the same time. Yes, certainly. But the question is, what's more? For example, take meat, take a steak. There might be carbohydrates present, but 99% is protein. We're talking about a big advantage. But if you eat a piece of bread and a piece of sausage, there'll be a ratio of 50-50. The same thing. If I say that you cannot eat sugar, you will say that sugar is in every product. We can combine greens with both, just like fats. Fat can be combined with both carbohydrate and proteins. So my advice to you is, in the morning, eat carbohydrates with greens. At lunch, eat proteins with greens. And in the evening, you can just eat greens. Fiber will never hurt you. You can eat this in buckets, and it will not interfere with your body digestion. When we intentionally give our body proteins and carbohydrates, we create problems for it. And what was the name of our lecture? Accumulation of energy, generation of energy. So what kind of energy storage can we talk about if we are creating problems within ourselves? I do have some bad news for those who smokes and take alcohol. During the study of superpowers, you have to give up these bad habits. If you generally can't refuse, minimize these substances. Once a week, maybe half a glass of dry wine, but no more. About any other strong drinks, you can forget it all. If you want to get to some serious results, just give it up. The fact is that our brain simply cannot work under conditions of periodic alcohol intakes. When we begin to develop our brain, intersynaptic neural connections should be developed well, be strengthened, and alcohol simply kills them. It turns out that in one hand, we're trying to develop our brain, but in the other hand, we're poisoning ourselves. Why cigarettes are bad? The fact is that they create spasms of vessels. It takes place while inhaling from cigarettes. From this, the vessels become completely clogged. Because of this, you can even lose limbs later. And if this happened with limbs, it also can happen with the brain. There are people who after this course thank me for the fact that they were able to abandon nicotine. If you like to smoke marijuana, smoking, the carbon monoxide is what's killing you. But anything excessive can lead to addiction. So be very aware. The last thing I wanted to say about today's nutrition is drinking water. Try not to consume too much water after immediately eating. The fact is that when we take certain foods, our body roughly understands the weight, mass of this food, and produces as much as gastric juice as needed for digestion. If we immediately wash it down, we dilute the concentration. And even if you eat absolutely right, but drink it down, thus you violate the concentration of gastric juice, and your food remains undigested. And instead of generating our energy that we need, our body goes into saving us. Water should be drunk at 2.5 to 3 liters per day. Best to drink water before meals, but do not drink immediately in large proportions. Ideally, 2 to 3 sips at a time. Water is absorbed in the body only if it is taken in small doses. A glass is already a lot. Half a glass is fine. You'll get used to it very quickly. A little more about water for those who like to travel a lot, who like to go hiking, especially in the wild extreme weathers. There is such a thing called fast water purification. We can purify any water within 20 to 30 minutes. And to do this, we have to take 2-3 grains of manganese on a bucket of water. And in half an hour, the water will be completely decontaminated. If you can drink clean, bottled, or filtered water, you can purify any water using this potassium permanganate. There's a very interesting theory of fasting, namely fasting for 16 hours a day. There's a theory that the cell has only 2 states. Either it works or it regenerates. It regenerates if it does not receive any food for 16 hours. And there's a theory that we should eat only 8 hours a day, and the other 16 hours absolutely do not eat anything. There's a starvation on juices, a starvation on water, but it is quite difficult to go 24 to 48 hours without eating anything, but you can get used to it. It is a very good practice. If you have any health problems, when we move to working with chakras, all these diseases can be simply managed and disappear. All I'm saying today is mostly for those who have not really thought about their diet before. If you already have gone this way, great. You don't need to go down below. About tea and coffee. Coffee strongly stimulates the adrenal glands. When we drink coffee, we think that everything is cool and we are full of energy. In fact, this is a deception. It's an illusion. If a certain product causes the body to produce certain hormones, then it is desirable, of course, to do it without it. But if you, for example, been drinking coffee for 40 years, and then some earnest appears and says, stop drinking coffee, will you be able to quit? Now that is the question. But the fact that you need to give up alcohol and nicotine 100% while studying CD abilities. Without this, friends, there is no way. Now let's talk about how can we measure our tonic activity and how does this method works. So there are 2 types of tests to check this tonic activity. The first tonic activity is for our muscles. We can measure how high our body performance is. It is measured very simply. Grab a towel with both hands, and the distance should be about 70 centimeters between both hands. Stretch the towel side to side. Pull, twist for a whole minute, and then relax. Then lower your hands down and wave lightly up and down. How high your hands will fly indicates what kind of tonic activity you have at that moment. I will release a video of how to do this as well. There are 4 zones of tonic activity. Zone 1 is at 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock if we look at a clock's face. Zone 2 is 9 o'clock on 3. Zone 3 is 10 o'clock and 2. And zone 4 is 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. As high as your hands are lifted, the high or low your muscle tones are. Remember the story of the football player who was dragged into the nightclubs and in the morning went to the fields? The question is why the coach did not check his tonic activity. Good coaches always do. This is what regards to a tonic activity of the muscles. There is also a tonic activity of the brain. It's measured by solving certain simple tasks. I recommend you to try these methods. I will put up a GIF picture, a GIF picture, which is a rotating ballerina. I bet everyone's seen this. As we switch our vision, so can she rotate either in one direction or in another. But in fact, in reality, she's not rotating at all. It rotates only due to the fact of our brain hemisphere are not harmonized. So with good tonic activity of our body, we can consciously switch thinking. Alternately, rotating the ballerina in the picture to the right and left 20 to 30 times per minute. I will put this picture up in general chat later. I recommend that today, before going to bed, do the test of tonic activity of the muscles and repeat it every time you wake up. This week, repeat this for 3 times. From the next week, it will be enough to measure once a week, only in the morning. This is to let you know how much your diet and sleep mode affects your overall tone. When we start working directly with thought, your tonic activity will increase. Again, our brain, our thoughts work just like a muscle. And do not give up immediately. If you can rotate the ballerina in different directions, train, and you will see results. So friends, now briefly about the exercises. Today I had prepared a couple of different exercises, but before that, I want to give you one interesting exercise that you will need to do every day for 10 minutes, which is called sensory deprivation. This is what enhances the perception of reality and helps to connect with our intuition. This exercise is that you turn off one of the senses 10 minutes a day and no more. Otherwise, they might not be very good consequences. This can be your eyes or ears. Try to do this for 10 minutes. Do what you normally do without using your eyes. For example, you could just walk around your house. Put on some shoes that will not hurt if you hit anything. Always keep your hands forward. The next day, you can plug your ears with earplugs, for example, and try for 10-15 minutes. Analyze facial expressions of people, analyzing the overall situation. Try to live in a world without hearing. In the initial stages, you can also try to watch a movie with someone, having those earplugs where you cannot listen, and then tell this person what was discussed. This is greatly enhanced to our perception of reality and intuition. Next, we will practice mental vacuum. What is mental vacuum? It is a complete absence of thoughts. The fact is that we are engaged in development of abilities and superpowers. We need to be able to bring our thoughts in order, and it is better to completely turn them off. How to do it? We create a complete silence in our head. Every image, thought, every impulse we feel, we cut them off completely. We have to practice and learn to do this 5 to 10 minutes of complete silence. You have to become accustomed to it. That is, when you close your eyes and just create silence and complete darkness in your head. Space. No thoughts, no images, absolutely nothing. If there's an image, you immediately throw it away, just like you're sweeping out a broom from your head. Learn how to do it. The first stage, we will do it in total darkness and silence. Do this for 5 minutes. The second stage, up to 5 minutes, do it with open eyes in a quiet room. And in the third stage, do this with open eyes in a loud room. It's difficult, but it is training. Friends, and now for those who couldn't visualize the cube, I will try to assist them. For those who couldn't visualize the cube, when you create an object in your head, this is your visualization. The main thing here is the approach of training. The object visualization starts with the first step. The first step is completely silence. Nothing bothers you. If you can't immediately visualize a complex object, then start with a simple one. Visualize just a line, one line, a glowing line. Then visualize 3 lines. Create a triangle. See this triangle. But see this in complete silence, in complete absence of thoughts. Next, create a quadrilateral. Try to see this in 2-dimensional space. Then further, you could expand it, pull it out, see it in 3D. And just like that, just create a framework. And then fill it out on all sides. And this is how visualization is created. Friends, if you did drawing in school, even though if you did a little bit of art, then you know how to create geometric shapes. That's exactly how we draw them in our head. There's nothing complicated here. Next, for the next week exercise. The first, as I said, sensory deprivation. Do this all week. The next exercise is adding energy to a subject, which is a cube or a ball. People who have difficulties creating a cube can also create a ball. So we create an object mentally in our heads, completely disconnect with all mental dialogue. We create this object, either a cube or ball, and then we fill it with light energy. This is important. You have to fill it with light energy. It is filled with the energy coming out from the hands. Just a stream of light, an ordinary light from the hands that fills this object. You should be able to imagine this. This is very, very important. Now further, we hold this item for 1 minute, and then we see how the energy comes from our hand into this object. We hold it visually with this energy, this light, and then we take this energy back into our hands. This light comes back into our hands. When we learn how to do this, we move on to a more advanced exercise. Namely, we have created an object for ourselves, a cube, a ball, or a pyramid. It does not matter. It is important that you can hold this item, hold this light. And on exhalation, for the 10 seconds, you mentally fill this ball with energy. Then hold your breath for 5 seconds. And then on the inhalation, on inhale, the energy comes back into your hands. This exercise is very important to develop energy. It develops intuition. Secondly, it develops visualization. Thirdly, it develops your energy much, much more. Because we are starting to pump energy back and forth. And this is the main key. This is something you need to practice daily until our next lecture. There was a question. Should we try to feel warmth or cold in our hand when we do these exercises? Simple answer is no. The point is that the first exercise I gave you was just to feel what visualization is. Now you have to see the light and hold it and pull it back into your hands. Friends, where is the connection between body and thoughts? Which I mean, why are we letting energy through our hands? The fact is that we have 2 chakras in our hands. And through these chakras, which is located in the center of the palm, give out and receives energy. We also know that men gives with the right hand and takes with the left hand. And through observation, women have the opposite. But it really doesn't matter. You can give out energy from both hands as well. On exhalation, we give energy, and inhalation, we take it in. So, to begin with, do it with your eyes closed, and most importantly, do it with a complete mental vacuum. How many times a day? Well, somewhere 5 to 6 times minimum, 1 minute holding the energy, and you can do this even in public transports. Best thing is to do this anywhere where nobody will disrupt you or evoke any kind of trance. There was another question once about if someone wants to listen to the sounds of water in the headphones to increase concentration while doing these exercises. Yes, you can even put some mantras, for example, Om, or you can put some light music that does not interfere you. Well, friends, you have a week assignments. And today's lecture was a bit of a mess because of nutrition is such a complex matter that people begin to realize only when they reach certain complexities in telekinesis exercises. Then they realize that the response is, oh, I can't do it. Oh, all the exercise I do right, but it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Namely, because we do not get those missing 10 to 15% of the whole energetic inner energy that we need. Friends, please listen to this lecture once again. Hear what I'm trying to convey to you. The thing is, this is very useful information. It will give you lots of energy. Especially when you go directly to telekinesis exercise, you will realize that these are the missing percentage that you need for the development of your abilities and superpowers. I am glad that you are here with me today. So I will see you in the next lecture. And thank you for being with me. All great success, all the best, and good productive week. See you soon.